Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to the village, everyone. This is Andre. Waiting on Roderick to get onto the show. How we doing? Um, let's see. My viewers can comment. Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to the village, everyone. This is Andre. Waiting on Roderick. Waiting on Roderick to get onto the show. How we doing? Um, let's see. My viewers can comment. Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to the village, everyone. And I'm echoing. All right. Gonna get on our guests in a little bit. Have a good show tonight. Um, is it all there? Just want to make sure that we're good. How's everybody week been going? If you want to call in, want to make a comment, right? Man of the hour is here. The man of the hour is here. I'm starting to feel lonely. You know, starting to feel lonely. Even Sister Tawan, Dr. Andre, and all host blessings. God cover you all under his blood. Thank you, Sister Adams. Good evening. Good evening. I'm a doctor now. You know, you hear that? You see that, Roger? I'm a doctor. Right?
God bless. Giving thanks, giving honor to the Most High God for giving us another Thursday to be right here on GD Radio on the Village. With it looks like you're the co-host today, Andre, with our co-host Andre Doman. And by the way, just audience, while you're out there, just to know that I think next week or thereafter, Andre is going to be one of our guests because hey, he has a surprise. Right, you know, I said that he starts to.
Oh gosh.
You know, how's everything going?
It's going good, man. Going good. You know, I was just thinking of like just ways I could just engage people with the book itself. So I'm thinking of doing something like minute art, and we'll see what happens with that.
All right. Okay. That I mean, your big uncle proud of you. Say, do what you have to do.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm gonna have to purchase my copy of the book as soon as the opportunity comes for me to purchase it. We're gonna get right into it today. I am a little bit behind schedule. One of the tech person had a little bit of tech difficulty, and I must tell people up front, I am having. My son was on my computer. Andre King was on the computer, and he downloaded Roblox. Right, he downloaded Roblox. It gave my computer a virus. Right, so that's the problem. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on the Village. This is the Village Talk Show with Roderick F. Daly, Rudy. To most of you, we hear it producer Andre Doman and our co-hostess Tawana St. Paul. Just to let you know that the Village is dedicated to empowering the community to live a healthy, safe, and financially capable life through education, helping each one of us in realizing our dreams at any age, any point, starting from today. Remember, success is not just spoken, it is done. What are you doing to be successful? Are you just talking about it? Or are you doing something about it? Our first guest, who I'm going to bring on immediately, is Dr. Victor Alexander. Very. Yeah, I should. Normally let the guests introduce themselves, but in this particular case, I'm gonna. You know how when you get an award, somebody gets up and talk about the person who's getting the award, and then read the bio. So I'm gonna do that in this case. Dr. Victor Alexander was my tutor in high school.
Oh man.
He and I both got a scholarship to high school back in Amherst, Massachusetts, where he went on to UMass after he went to Amherst High School, went on to UMass, and he went on to medical school. He became a doctor. And a couple of things I want to point out. Victor was an older doctor, and not older, but older as in the sense like, because he graduated college, he took some time. How long did you take off, Victor? About 3 years, 3 or 4 years before you?
No, I took about a year and a half off.
A year and a half before you went to medical school. So, and then he went on to medical school, and look, he is living the dream. So welcome, Dr. Victor Alexander, to the village.
Thank you, Roderick.
Right. So other than what I told people about yourself, tell us a little bit about you, your family, etc. Whatever you feel comfortable in talking about.
Sure. I actually grew up in New York City, the Bronx. Went off to high school just like Roderick did. We actually ended up in the same place in Amherst, Massachusetts. Went to high school there for a number of 3 years, and then went off to University of Massachusetts, which is in the same town, and I majored in molecular biology back in the 80s. Then went off to med school in Albany, New York. I did my general medical education. Thereafter, I went to do a residency in emergency medicine at Yale New Haven Hospital, affiliated with Yale University. That was 2000. I finished, and I've been practicing since '96, actually, medicine, and was in Connecticut for a number of years until 2010. I moved to California, and I work in the Bay Area now in emergency medicine.
Again, people that he works in the ER. That's emergency medicine. He's so fancy. He's an ER doc. You remember back in the days, ladies and gentlemen, that television shows used to be ER. That's him right there. That's what convinced him to become an ER doctor. But he's not going to tell me that. He's going to be like, nah. But it resonated in his mind. So welcome to the village, Dr. Alexander. Welcome.
Right. Thank you, Roderick.
Welcome.
So it is great. Oh, Marvelyn, if you're watching, look, Marvelyn. In case hold on, let me move her. There you go. You see it?
All right. We're representing again this week.
Yeah, I'm doing E-Hall this week. Remember last week she was mad. I don't know, what was I wearing last week? I was wearing Prospect, right?
One of was it Erasmus? I don't remember.
It wasn't Erasmus because she was joshing me. Hey Della, how you doing? Hey everyone. Sorry I didn't get a chance to greet you because I'm a little bit under Russian. So Dr. Alexander, let me just, I want to ask, I know you're here to talk about like the vaccine and COVID and stuff, but I think looking at you, I didn't even think about that before, but I look at you as an inspiration for a lot of inner city youth, right? Because a lot of times people are concerned that, I don't have any money. My parents are not rich. My parents are not this. I have that background, right? So do you have something like you want to share, like for people who want to be a doctor, are interested in a doctor, and even, what it was like? So that's up to, it's not the purpose, but I thought it would be a good opportunity because you were one of my mentors. You understand what I'm saying? Because you were my tutor in high school. By the way, he tutored math, Andre. So nice. Yeah, he was my math tutor.
Man, you needed a math tutor. You're good at math.
I was good at math. Yeah, I was good at math, but good at math, and I still needed a tutor. So that should tell you, right? How smart Victor was.
Right.
Roderick was an awesome student, by the way. He was exceptionally, I thought, gifted in math. He was probably one of my best students in that regard. I just wanted to say that. I know he probably downplays himself, but he was an outstanding student, I must say.
Yeah, this man act like he's the best all the time. So
I paid him. Victor and I were, both from inner city New York. I'm just letting people know out there, parents, when you're listening, your child is an inspiration. You're an inspiration. Just support them. His family supported him. My family, my mom and my dad, they supported me. And so, it's actually kind of cool when you really think about it. All right. So, Doc, you took both vaccines. Let's start with the political perspective, right? Let's start with a political perspective. I was watching CNN, and Dr. Fauci was going at it at Donald Trump today. Did you get a chance to glimpse it?
No, I did not see. I've seen Fauci numerous times prior to all this, and I did not see him since the establishment of the new administration. I have not heard any of his talks so far. So I must say, I'm just going to say that I did not listen to him this morning. No.
No, he went at Trump.
Yeah.
He made two comments, which for me, the two comments were very telling. right? They were very, very telling about what is happening in America and that people needed to really listen to. One, he made a comment, and I'm paraphrasing, and the comment was, "In this administration, I don't have to make things up." Right?
Yeah.
That statement alone said, for the American people who are supporting that former president, and I'm saying that with no misgivings, right? The person who was supporting that former president, literally, he's telling you that there was no basis for what he was doing, right?
Yeah. That's very believable. But one thing I just want to say real quickly before I go on and talk, and I work for the Permanent Medical Group here in Northern California and for the Kaiser Foundation Health System. Now, I must say, none of what I'm saying right now or what I'm about to say is an opinion or any happenstance, anything that they're I'm not representing them here at all. This is completely my opinion. This is my view. I just want to kind of separate myself from what I'm about to say going forward. So just this is as a disclaimer. So, I mean, Roderick, I think you touched an important point. I mean, looking back to the beginning of last year in January till the present, for my opinion, I think Fauci has always been gagged. I don't think he honestly said what he wanted to say. There was, we all know, there was a lot of lack of facts, opinions that did not make any scientific sense in terms of how, information about COVID, prevention strategies, many things that were kind of brought on. There was actually more confusion created, I think, about, what you can do to protect yourself and others about this illness. And that's been the get-go, I think, from how the Trump administration kind of handled it. So I think Fauci is probably, for the first time, I think he's been allowed to talk, allowed to, express what he knows about the illness and what he thinks should happen, probably without hindrance. So that's probably what you're hearing from Fauci at this point.
All right, and I just want to be clear. I'm just saying to you from my perspective as well, right? Because you're not here representing. When we talk about the vaccine, we talk about COVID. That's your space. Everything else is just an opinion. One person just texted back to me and said, "I never gave you a chance to ask the question or respond," because he also works with young men. So if you want to go back to your inspiration to become a doctor, he wanted me to bring that point back.
Sure.
I want to go back and give you an opportunity to respond to that, and then we come back to the points.
Yeah, to me, medicine was always the intersection of art and science, and I've always been a student of science, and to me, that was the perfect blend of a career in which I felt that I would be happy and productive, and I pursued it. And it comes down to two things, in my opinion, as far as your ability to kind of, traverse through and be successful in anything. I mean, even in medicine, is number one is determination, and the second is work. You got to put in the work, and you got to be determined. And I don't think there's very little that can stop you at that point. And I think if you have those two ingredients, and the determination and the ability to work, that includes persistence and keeping your eye on a given goal, you will get it done. And that's all it takes. And that's my opinion. That's kind of the broad, kind of basket of ideals that I can kind of say to someone in probably a minute or two that I would think make a difference, especially, just reflecting on myself, back where I came from and where I am now.
Was there any part of going to medical school or between college that you felt the transition became easier, or you always had to have your foot on the pedal? If somebody who's aspiring to become a doctor, right? Is there like at the point they could say, you know what, it's worth it. It's, or you could slow down, it gets easier, whatever the case is. Or, what are your thoughts on that? Somebody who might be, even somebody who's in medical school now and might be thinking about quitting.
I think, going through medical school and residency are the big hurdles. I think those are the toughest two, points or part of your training journey where, the fence is high, you need to jump over. Okay, once you've kind of passed that hurdle, I think it becomes much easier. And I'm speaking for myself, and I'm probably most people will agree. I mean, this is where you're tested. This is where your tolerance, for things are tested. This is where you have to show your persistence. When you, especially in residency, kind of, I remember, I was talking to somebody the other day. I remember being on call in the ICU, and we did several months of ICU just because I was an emergency medicine resident. And I remember being on call probably for, 48 hours, really, no sleep. And some days, I don't know how I got home. I mean, I found myself in bed the next morning, and I don't remember how I got there.
Wow. Like having how did I get to my bed? I got you.
So I mean, again, I think it really does test your character and your perseverance, and that's what I gained out of that, and I found it valuable. And those are the tough times, and I think after that, it does become quite easier. So that's, yeah.
One last question, and we move on. What do you say to a kid who's in high school who wants to be part of the push, but they just need to what kind of classes? Because a lot of times I always tell kids, you're not a doctor in high school. You're not even a doctor after getting your bachelor's, right? But what do you tell a kid who's in high school? What kind of courses they need to take? What do they need to look at? Something that will be helpful for them.
I mean, just as a basis, I think you have to have an innate interest and curiosity in people, process. And what I mean by that is science. I mean, that's one of the things that I think really makes outstanding physicians is your ability to always ask questions, always willing to learn. And I think most of the people that tend to go into medical school probably already have that. And beyond that, I think it always helps to know your science, because a lot of what you learn initially, it makes it easier to learn those things. But you don't have to be a science major to go to med school these days. And even when I was training, that was the case. I mean, you need to take your core group of science subjects in college that's required for medical school. And you have to take your entrance examinations. But beyond that, I mean, they look at other things, right? I mean, your kind of ability to balance life, your interest in people. There's a lot more to being a physician than just science, but it does make it easier to understand a lot of the concepts that are being thrown at you. And again, I mean, in the first couple of years of med school, they'll throw, I mean, literally what you probably learned, I remember, just to give an example, what I probably learned in the first 4 years of undergrad, that volume of information I probably got in the first 6 months of medical school. So wow. Your ability to process large volumes of information is very important, to get the salient points and to be able to be a good test taker, because they test you all the way through. So the bottom line is you don't have to be a science major. It's more your interest. You have to have an interest in wanting to help people. Your interest in humanity, that's important. So science, yes, it's okay to be a science major, but I think your abilities in regards to being a good student and learning the material is probably more important than what you major in. I don't know if that helps.
I love that answer. I think that answer should be inspirational to all. That it's about being a good. I always tell students, just you have to be in a certain, you're not going to be a doctor with a 6 to 5 average. That's just not going to happen, because, like you say, you have the ability. You have to have the ability to hold on, suck in information, and keep it right. Yeah. So if you're at a 6 to 5 average, that means you have very poor study habits. And one of the things is to increase your study habits. Because I remember those days when you were studying for your MCATs. right? I remember those days when we were down, when you were at the house, you were studying. We all were studying because I had to study for my SATs. You were studying for your MCATs and all those different things that we had to do. All right. So anyway, let's get to because my producer's sending me notes, even though he's on the phone, he's sending me notes just to remind me. Let's get to the chase, right? Today we roughly, was it 400? Was it 309,000? I think it was 300. Was it 309,000, Andre? Deaths right, around there as of today.
Yeah.
Right? So we had about 309,000 deaths from COVID. And what my understanding is they're predicting, ladies and gentlemen, and please listen. I know sometimes people get upset. Oh, you talk about COVID. You talk about COVID, and I'm trying to remind people, listen, this thing is serious, right? It's a very serious. So we have over 309,000 deaths as of today, with over 4,000 people dead today. And yesterday inauguration, they had more than 4,200 people that died. You took the COVID vaccine. First of all, tell us, what was that like, and how do you feel?
Yeah, I took. I received the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID vaccine. I think my first dosing was the second week of December, I believe, the second or third week. And then, the schedule for the Pfizer vaccine is the first vaccine. First from day 0. The second vaccine is 21 days later, and I've received the 21 days. It's been roughly 2 weeks now since I've received the second vaccine. I did not have any major vaccine-related issues. My arm was sore for a day on both instances. Outside of that, I did not have any of the systemic kind of symptoms that some of my colleagues did. And to me, those symptoms are actually, helpful. It tells you that your body, like for those people that do develop a little bit of myalgia, muscle aches, or a little bit of a fever, or even a high fever, malaise, those kind of things are a sign that your body has recognized, the vaccine, and that it's actually doing its job of working towards producing antibodies. Okay, so those are, to me, those are positive signs that actually things are working. And so, those things, didn't happen to me. When I get vaccines in general, I don't react like some other people do. But that was my experience.
So well, I'm just going to ask you, like, would you say in comparison, have you taken the flu shot?
I get the flu shot every year.
So how would you compare the feeling of what do you say, like a pain, compared when you the vaccine? Or is there any comparison? The
only thing I can tell you is that one thing I will say is that my arm was a bit more sore with the COVID vaccine than it was with the flu vaccine.
Okay, fair enough. So again, ladies and gentlemen, you have that, basic point. So let's talk about from the medical perspective, right?
Yeah.
What is, from medically, what is your opinion of the vaccine?
Sure. Right now, there's, as you know,
let me give you go back. I'm your patient.
Yeah.
You know my situation. Right?
Yes.
Right. So I'm your patient. You can use my situation versus Andre, which is he's fine.
Yeah.
Right. So use both example. What would you give it? What advice would you give?
My advice, and to you more than probably Andre, I think the vaccines, I would recommend vaccines to both of you. Okay. This is an illness that when you get it, you cannot predict the outcome in regards to it being a mild case versus a major side of, becoming significantly ill from the virus, which can happen. So, given the risk and benefits, everything in life comes down to risk and benefits. Okay. That's what it comes down to. That's how I would look at this when I talk to you two, right? So when you get in a car, there's a 1 in 7,000 chance you're going to die. That's just a stat. Okay. Right. That doesn't prevent you from getting in a car, right? We can talk about a lot of activities like that, whether it's, walking down the street, getting in a car, etc. And especially in your case, if you get, COVID, your chances of having a bad outcome, I can tell you, is significantly higher in those odds, right? So when you look at it that way, and I would recommend it to both of you because it's one of those things where, it's best to prevent it. I can tell you the range of outcomes that I've seen from people having very mild illness to people having significant illness where it affects, people have had brain swelling and encephalopathy, can never walk or talk, to obviously death, right? Or being on oxygen for the rest of your life. These are all outcomes that nobody wants. And it is an illness which can have these kind of outcomes, which is hard to predict in people. Obviously, the older you are, the more comorbidities, i.e. asthma, blood pressure, diabetes, obesity, these type of things you have, or other chronic illness, in depressed immune states, your chances for those outcomes are worse. So, it is one of these things when you look at it from a risk and benefit standpoint, I think it's worth it. It's worth it to get the illness, to get the vaccine and prevent the illness. That's my general gist to people.
I think that's because a lot of times people send out these fear mongerer videos or on the WhatsApp. Oh, this person did this, and when you see these extreme cases and you say to yourself, okay, when you have an extreme, like people deformity, right? I think some of these people, they're really not joking. They're really trying to say, I don't want you to take the vaccine because of this type of fear mongering, right? And it's not fair to people who are really relying. And the president says that he wants to roll out, over 100 million people to take the vaccine in his first 100 days. So that's what, February, March, April, about the middle of April. He wants to get about 100 million people to do that. How does it look at your hospital in terms of people who are taking the vaccine?
Most of the medical staff that I know and people that I know, friends, colleagues, they're getting the vaccine. Okay, there's going to be a cadre of people who don't want it. But I can tell you that the majority of people that I know are going through and getting the vaccine just because of what we do and how much we're exposed. I come into contact every working day that I have. I come into contact with COVID patients. Period. Mm-hmm. For someone like me, clearly, there's not much thought to it. Okay, I got the vaccine. But I can tell you that there's a lot. The bulk of us are getting the vaccine because we have a different understanding of it, obviously, and to us it is something that clearly is a prevention strategy that I think works. When you just one little thing here. So when you look in the history of public health, vaccines, in my opinion, have saved more lives than any single intervention otherwise medically done. Okay. Outside of clean sewers and sewers and clean water and all these other things that we've done to bolster public health that we have easily available in this country. The other thing that have greatly saved lives, to me, is the advent of the vaccine. Okay, when you think about illnesses like polio, mumps, measles, smallpox, all these type of things that to me, if you actually get the illness, where your chances of a bad outcome are relatively high, vaccines have done their duty. And so in the same vein, this is why I recommend it. But to answer your question specifically, the bulk of people that I've come across have gotten the vaccine.
Right. One of our guests asked, what are some of the side effects of the vaccine? So Empress Daniel.
Yeah, sure. A lot of the side effects tend to be, and it varies from person to person. Most of it, the people talked about having a sore arm. Other people have had myalgias, muscle aches, fever, almost like you're coming down with a cold or maybe the early part of the flu. Some people do develop allergic reactions, true allergic reactions, where you get hives, and sometimes that can be on the severe side. That's why they watch you for 15 to 20 minutes. And if you have any known allergies to some of the components in the virus, the vaccine, specifically what they talk about is polyethylene glycol. That's one of the ingredients in the vaccine. And if you have any known allergies to that, it's a recommendation that you be very cautious. So again, these type of more severe reactions that you see are are low likelihood. You don't see that often at all. It's more likely what you develop is probably a sore arm, maybe some body aches, maybe a fever, headache, those type of things, and they tend to be transient. They tend to go away within 24 to 48 hours.
Gotcha. Is it accessible in your hospital in the Bay Area to non-essential workers? Because I think that's one of the issues that people are having. Would you say that you need more obviously we need more vaccine, but would you say that the vaccine that you have or getting is at the right pace? Or do you think that the need outweighs the ability to give?
So you got to remember the vaccine recommendations and distribution, happens to, at least in California, and I know most other states, happens through the state health system. So, and that's been the case with the initial phase 1A rollout, is that it was basically distributed to the state health systems, okay? And they're the ones responsible for distributing it and making sure that people that are designated for this vaccine in phase 1A, which is primarily frontline healthcare workers, get it. And the county in each one of these instances locally are the ones that determine the course of that. So what I'm trying to say is that right now the vaccine is, I know in the last 2 weeks they made it more available to people above the age of 65. And I think there's probably a shortage in that. But, from my experience with the vaccine, when I was getting it, it was primarily in the last, month and a half ago, was primarily meant for, healthcare workers. And that was available to them. Now, I don't know. I know there's a shortage in the sense of the vaccine to the public. And so, so the whole aspect of distribution of the vaccine is being done on the schedule of that phased rollout. So in other words, if you're not in healthcare, nor are you a member of what's been designated to get the vaccine right now, I think it's above age 65, in the state of California, you're probably not going to get it.
Got you. Another question, do you know, I don't know if you know the answer to the question or not, but do you know if there's a difference between the Moderna vaccine, the Pfizer vaccine? Is there a difference from the two vaccines?
In the general technology is the same. These are both mRNA vaccines, right? So, that's number one. Number two, the major differences I know are in the storage capability of both vaccines. I know the Pfizer vaccine, the storage, there's more storage limitations. It has to be kept at minus 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Once you thaw it, you got 5 days to administer the vaccine. The Moderna has greater usability in the sense of it can be stored at minus 4 degrees. Both vaccines require 2 injections. Pfizer, it's basically first injection followed by a second injection 21 days later. Moderna is 28 days later. But there's probably some proprietary, details of the Moderna vaccine that, again, I wouldn't know. That makes it easier to store. But outside of that, what it does in a general sense is probably the same.
I gotcha. So basically what you're saying is, I was thinking that the ability to mass produce the vaccine, I think it's also another reason why there are multiple companies that need to produce it, because one person cannot handle the load.
Right. And so, again, that, right now, I know Pfizer, Pfizer doesn't have, Pfizer has I know they have contracts with the U.S. government, so it is probably Moderna. But, it's a matter of, again, it's a mass production issue, and the logistics of that, I don't know, to be honest with you, what's kind of holding things up. I'm sure other countries are also probably requesting these vaccines. There's other vaccine technologies, outside of mRNA. For example, the AstraZeneca vaccine that's in trial now. It's a different technology. But right now, I think it's just a matter of getting the numbers out. And I think, at least I haven't checked. I know there was one time I read about this a couple of weeks back. I think the Biden administration had plans of using the Defense Production Act and doing those. And at that time, they wanted to release the full lot of what was available to what we had in reserves. And so I think the Trump administration did that prior to leaving. Now it's just the logistics of getting it to people. And that's what makes it difficult. I mean, you have to vaccinate, right? You have to vaccinate, another 200 million, more than that, probably, right? People. Right. And to get this out so quickly, it's going to be, it's just all the kind of nuts and bolts that are involved, the storage issues, where to vaccinate, who to vaccinate, as far as, having the people that are able to vaccinate individuals. All those things are going to be, that's a major endeavor. And that's what needs to happen, in the next several months, I think, for people to get vaccinated in a timely fashion and to get, eventual herd immunity.
So Paul Etienne asked, hold on, we have a caller. Carla, you live?
So Paul Etienne asked, hold on, we have.
Hello?
Carla, you're live.
Okay.
Carla, you live?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes. You need to turn on the radio in the background. But yes, I can hear you.
Oh?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, question for the doctor.
Doctor, hold on. Dr. Alexander, you can hear?
Yeah, I can hear perfectly fine. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead. Question?
How are you?
I'm doing fine. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, if you already have the antibodies already, why do you need a vaccine?
Sure. Let's talk about that quickly. So when you get infected with the coronavirus, there's always a second chance that you can get infected. That is possible, and it's been proven. It doesn't happen that often, but it does. So the immunity you get from an actual infection, it's more varied than you will when you get a vaccination. In other words, remember what happens is your body gets the virus. It gets chewed up by the body to some degree, right? It's because your body's fighting it. And all those different antigens, meaning pieces of virus that becomes introduced to the body, and what antibodies are created are varied. They're not the same, right? They're different antibodies. And so their potency is probably less so. When you have something like the spike protein, which is what the vaccine creates, you get a more uniform, response, right? So that's why the efficacy of the vaccine is probably greater than if you just simply got the infection. And so I don't know if I answer your question. So it has to do with understanding, how your body deals with the infection and what antibodies are created. The antibodies that are created by your body with a native infection tends to be more varied than very specific.
Do you know, I'm sorry, caller, do you have another question? I apologize.
And this is my last question. What about the side effects? I remember you said the side effects like your arm hurts, or you get a fever and a headache. That's the only side effects you get from the vaccine?
The vaccine side effects are varied. The bulk of people who experience side effects, we're talking, for instance, for me, it was my arm hurt. That was it. Other people had body aches, maybe a fever, maybe a headache, those type of things. But it's kind of like getting the flu almost, probably for a day or so. That's what a lot of people do describe that. I myself did not have that. All I had was a sore arm. So those are the major side effects that people kind of complain about from my experience with talking to individuals and also what you read about. Occasionally, once in a blue moon, you hear about an allergic reaction that happens to the vaccine. But again, that is a low likelihood event.
So in other words, you're saying the side effect is just like getting the flu shot?
Probably more or less.
Hello?
Yeah.
Oh, I did not get your answer.
I said yes. That's correct. It most likely will be something like that. Have you had the flu vaccine before?
No.
Okay. Now, the reason I ask you that is because sometimes you can kind of, you kind of know how people sometimes will react to vaccines in certain ways. Like some people, when they get a vaccine, they always get a little bit of a body ache and those type of things. And that's okay. That means, like I said before, your body's awakening. It recognizes this antigen, and it's basically attempting to produce antibodies. That's what it's doing, right? That it's reacting. And that's what you want it to do. So you know, how you respond to the vaccine is very individual. And if you fall on the bell curve of people, you know, of majority of symptoms, it'll be something mild, and it won't be something, you know, extravagant or extreme.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, caller.
You know, I think even just to comment on that too is that one of the many reasons why people are just, you know, ask those questions are so concerned, among the many reasons, because of how fast it developed. And I mentioned this a couple of weeks back too, is that when we consider where we are with technology and with the advancement and even the state of what's happening with people catching the coronavirus, and also really dying off, you know, the minds, the science, you know, people putting their heads together and really trying to develop something as fast as possible. So all the resources going into that. That does not mean I'm disregarding people's concern, but those are things that we have to consider, you know.
No, absolutely, Andre. I mean, you got to think about this. I mean, the national priority, both here and worldwide, to the development of an effective vaccine was enormous in this case, right? I mean, you know, one of the good things about Operation Warp Speed is that they really took the motive of profit out of the equation for many of these drug companies, because, you know, they were going to get paid, right, no matter what. So that, right. You know, with that gone, right, they really focused on, they put all their resources, their top scientists, everybody into the creation of a vaccine, which, again, I mean, when is the last time you saw something like that, right? Yeah. And that's one of the reasons that I think that, you know, you came to an effective product so quickly.
Right.
And so that's kind of my explanation and my thought about why it happened so quickly.
Gotcha.
Dr. Alexander, Jorge Blandon asked, and his question is, he said, sorry if I missed it earlier, but he wanted to know, what is your opinion on the order of prioritization for the vaccine? I'm wondering if he's talking about the different companies. So Jorge, if you have, can you do a clarifying question, or do you understand the question? I'm not sure. But again, let me reiterate, what is your opinion on the order of prioritization for the vaccine?
Assume it's like who gets it first, I think, probably.
Oh, yeah. So I guess you can argue both ways.
Yeah. Is this our Jorge Blandon, or is this a different Jorge Blandon?
No, it's same Jorge.
Okay. Yeah. So, you know, the prioritization for vaccine is obviously, I mean, that's a public health, you know, question, more or less, right? I mean, that's not something I make up, but that's something that's developed by the CDC to determine who gets, you know, vaccinating who will get the best bang for the buck in the sense of effective, you know, vaccine distribution, and also minimizing, you know, I mean, for example, you know, so that's something that's done on a national level. And I agree with their current plan, which is, you know, I think, you know, frontline workers, people that are dealing with this need to be vaccinated quickly, because we're the ones treating these patients, and you don't want us to get sick. And the elderly, I mean, those are all, I think reasonable, you know, approaches. And I agree with that so far. I mean, and again, that's not something I make up, but I will tell you my opinion is that I agree with the current rollout so far.
All right.
So, you know, Victor, I want to just say thank you publicly for the role that you played in my life. You know, as a young man growing up, and you were also a young man, but you're older and you're a big brother. So I just want to thank you for that, and thank you for the information that you gave today. And hopefully a lot of people out there got a little clarification about fiction versus reality when it comes to the
So thank you very much.
Right. So we would like to ask our guests, especially someone like you, a final question, and you got about 1 minute just to answer. So, you know, because our next guest is actually in the waiting room, right? And that question is, what is that question again, Andre? What is the one thing that you want to tell the audience about persevering for your goals?
Well, I'm sorry. So what about perseverance?
If you know anybody out there who's interested in doing something, what would be one inspiring comment that you'd make to somebody about persevering for their goals? What would you say?
Ultimately it comes down to you. Okay, you're the one who's going to do this, and you have to take that responsibility. You need to figure out a roadmap for yourself. You need to find people who's going to influence you, motivate you, and get you to your goal. And that all comes down to you. And people will help you along the way. If you want to be helped, people will help you. That's been my experience. But it comes down to you. You have to make that decision and stick with it. Okay. At the end of the day, that's kind of my final take on this. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, that was that.
You did. Thank you.
Very good answer. Thank you for joining us on The Village.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
All right. Take care, Dr. Alexander. Andre, one of Dr. Alexander's comments, which is reminded me of what I tell my kids. If you want to be successful, I will help you. You want to fail, I will help you. You decide what you want to do, but I'm gonna help you right along. So I think that's that, and it also goes back to what Rio was talking about a few weeks ago, which was talking about making your goals and making those comments. So that was good. Right.
I just had to put out W. So I hope he sees it. Still in the backstage.
I hope he sees what George said.
Yeah, he's smiling, Horace. So he definitely sees your comments. All right.
All right. So thank you. Welcome our next guest, Tiffany Tucker Pryor. She's running for city council in the 46th district. Correct. All right. So Tiffany, give us some. Hi. How are you doing? Just tell us a little bit about yourself. So why should you have? We're gonna put you on a timer, right? So you're on a timer.
Put me.
You have 2 minutes.
Jumping right into it.
Right.
Why not?
Right. 2 minutes to tell us about who you are and why people should vote for you.
Sure. So again, my name is Tiffany Tucker Pryor. First, I want to say thank you so much, Roderick and Andre, for having me on. I am a candidate for city council for the 46th council district. It's a district I live in, a district I love. I grew up in. I lived here since 1987. All right. So I've seen this district transition and transform, and I have a vision for my community. So that's first and foremost. I want people to know that you need to have leaders with a vision for the community, and that is what I have. I'm also running on faith and integrity, and so I will go to city council to do the right thing. Some of the things that I'm looking to do will include in actually holding our government accountable. I, like many people in our districts, have been hurt profusely by this city, unfortunately. The city that we love, the city that we want to be a part of, and I know for a fact that it does not have to be this way. So the time now is it's time for change. It's time for things to begin to, to look towards us, the people who've worked hard to achieve more. We are the working class, and it's time now for real accountability so that we can get what we deserve, which is a better life, a better quality of life. And so, one, like I mentioned to you, I'm going to be holding our government accountable, as well as holding myself accountable. Two, our youth services. There's so many young people who are out on these streets looking for guidance, looking to get the resources that they need, and they just they feel hopeless. They feel destitute because they don't have the guidance. And I know this firsthand, having also been a latchkey kid, to a single parent mom. I had to go out and find the resources for myself. My mom came here as an immigrant from Jamaica, and I get it. A lot of times they're working 2 and 3 jobs to make things happen. But guess what happened? There are people who care, and we need to be able to provide those resources to our young people, to let them know the gangs are not the only way. And so it's a big part of my platform to really re-engage young people in a different type of way. Mr. Daly, you've been a mentor to me, and thank God for your leadership in the schools and all of the different things that you have done in our community, and how you've been a leader. And from your leadership, it has trickled down to me, and I've been able to do very similar things, from starting a nonprofit at the age of 19 to helping young people grow and build and to see their development. And so with that being said, you as well?
Make your head get too big, all right?
You know, I can't help it. You know, his head is already big. I don't think it's
That's true. That's
Andre,
true.
you know this already. Come on, brother.
You have about 10 more seconds. Go ahead.
His wife knows this. I mean, everyone knows. All right.
All right. Before I get to my next question, one of our audience members asked for you to, and it was going to be a question, to tell us what district does the 46 cover?
Sure. So the districts that it covers 9 different neighborhoods. Thank you, Mr. Jermaine. It's 9 different neighborhoods. It's Canarsie, Bergen Beach, Flatlands, Mill Basin, Mill Island, Marine Park, Georgetown, Sheepshead Bay, and Garrison Beach. So all of these 9 neighborhoods, they're neighborhoods on the south side of Brooklyn. I know a lot of people don't come to these parts of town, so the folks who live here want to live here, if that makes any sense, you know, because we're sometimes a 2-3 fare zone just to travel if you don't have a car. And so I'm very much so well aware of the needs of my communities. And as I was mentioning before, we have to begin to get our young people out of the situation that they're in and really providing the resources that they need. Another big part of it is land use. So even, you know, when I win a committee I'm going to sit on is the land use committee. I've seen so many different developments being built in this community. And I realized for sure that all of these developments, but no schools. We talk about how our schools are overcrowded. We talk about how schools are sharing building and spaces and things of that sort, and everyone's fighting for this and fighting for that resource. However, not one school has been built in this community since I think the last school that was built was when they built I forgot what year it was that they built the annex to Lenox Academy.
I mean, there's another school that was built in the mid 2000s. That was IS 166, I think.
Right.
One of the audience member asked, so there are two questions, but one is, are you familiar with the 69 Precinct Council over there? So Empress Danielle asked that question.
Yes, so, I'm very familiar with. Have you ever been? Yes, I've been to the 69th Precinct Community Council on many occasions. I have not been recently, so within the past 2 months, 2-3 months.
And then the other question from Mr. Cameron says, "Oh, are you correct me on that? It says it's 366." So the question he's asking,
360. Oh, gotcha.
366. Okay.
The neighborhoods listed have huge disparities amongst their schools. Here it is. So it's on the biggest screen. Neighborhoods have huge disparities among their schools. What are your initial plans to close the gap and bring about and that was going to be
more equity?
Because
let me go
back. You have 2 districts, right?
Yeah.
Two
18
major,
and 22.
18 and 22.
District.
And on top of that, you have a disparity with the high schools because you have 3 major high schools in your district, meaning James Madison High School and
Canarsie,
which is one school. They didn't break that down.
No.
But then they broke down the other 2 schools, which are
they're broken down.
High School, and even some of the high schools are broken down in your district, whereas in District 22, a lot of those districts are not going down. So that was going to be one of our questions about closing the achievement gap.
Yes, go ahead.
Hold off on that question.
Don't answer it yet.
Redemption Inc.
Right, don't answer it yet. It is a question, and I want that answer, but I want to go back to. You know what? Go ahead and answer it, because then we could go back to that.
Yeah, why not? Let it flow. It's okay.
Let it.
Yeah, you know what? I think that this is a great question. So I actually just got off my interview with the UFT, and something that I mentioned to them before is something that I mentioned them on the call was just to let them know that right now it's really all a matter of accountability. People are talking about the difference between charter and district schools. Guess what happened? They're all receiving our hard-earned city funds. Okay, I want you all to know it doesn't matter. So whether the school is charter, whether the school is district, they're all considered public schools. They're all serving the same school, the same children from the same neighborhood. So what's important is that we hold all schools accountable. There is a lack of there's a lack of continuity, as he stated, across the board. You can walk into PS 276, it's going to look very different from PS 312. Even the park that they play in. And as I mentioned to you before, the fact that they did not end up building another school in the district, 276 was overcrowded. We have way more people in this district than we've ever had before. Over 165,000 people. And that's just the people who we documented via the census. Now y'all know in some of these houses, there are way more people than that. Y'all know.
Yeah, listen, you talk about your parent being Caribbean, and I think a lot of our audience is Caribbean, so they understand what you're alluding to in your comment.
Okay. So with over 100,000 people in the district, the schools, they're not building enough new schools in order to I guess accommodate for the expansion of the amount of children that are now living in the district. And then they force them into overcrowded schools. They're building annexes on the school playground. So where are the kids going to play? Right? So all of these different things that are taking place within the district that simply should not be, because then it takes away from the quality of life for the kids and the quality of the education, the quality of the school. So that within itself, you minimizing what the resources that the children are receiving and sucking out, as much as you can from them and not giving to them and giving them the space that they need to grow and build, that alone, that's not even touching the achievement gap, because really a big part of this is the fact that a lot of the children even moving into the district are immigrant descent. So for instance, I think it was 2013, when the earthquake hit in Haiti, for example, and children flooded to the United States. A large majority of those children flooded to our district, came to live with cousins and aunts and people they have never known, never seen before in their lives, but they were survivors and their parents weren't. And so then they had to come here. They didn't know the language. They didn't understand the culture. And so all of those things, they had to begin to learn an understanding of even before learning how to read English. So with all of that being said, there are additional resources that are needed for these young people. And I'm not saying to give them more than others. I'm saying to give them something different, give them what they need in order to be successful. That's what equity means. It's a scaling system. And that's what people need to understand. People are thinking like, oh, what is this equity? What does that mean? That means that some people are starting on a different level than you. And in order for them to actually balance the scale, equity means that you provide them what they need. They may need a stepping stool, and that's okay.
All right, I do
a good response.
Hey, listen, you sound
very
passionate, and I love that about the education piece. Marvelyn wants to know about your the two questions. What is the name of your nonprofit and the focus of the nonprofit? And then the other question is, do you have an educational background?
Sure. So I actually was a parent coordinator in a middle school, and I studied education for my master's. I thought about becoming a principal or, a school leader or something of that sort. So I went to Seton Hall after graduating Adelphi University. I went to Seton Hall and I studied education, leadership, management, and policy. But from there, I realized it wasn't just education that's important. I think it's a matter of within the education system, what's missing is collaboration. Having worked as a parent coordinator, I saw the divide amongst the schools. I saw what was going on, like it was said, the inconsistencies across the board. And so all of these different things need to be taken into account. If we're talking about reimagining our education system, we're really talking about actually real commitment from people who care and want to be in the building, right? And holding people accountable to actually do those things. Our young people feed off of the energy that we have. And if we want to be able to provide them more, we have to step up and give more. That's bottom line. So even as a parent coordinator at IS68, at that time, I actually went out and partnered. I did a lot of partnerships with a lot of nonprofit organizations to help alleviate the stress of the teachers and alleviate the stress that was on the parents. Some parents couldn't afford to buy kids glasses. So I found an organization that provided free glasses to kids. Some teachers, instead of taking a little $75 stipend or whatever it is that the DOE gives them, talking about buy resources for their classroom, when they are constantly buying supplies for kids who don't have any resources, we went and found a nonprofit organization. And in addition to my own nonprofit, Redemption Incorporated, so you can look us up, redemptionyouth.org. And we went, and with my organization as well as other organizations, we provided school supplies to the school teachers. So we gave the teachers their own bag, huge bags and boxes of supplies that they can then give out to their class so that they don't have to then spend their own money. And these are the type of things, this is what's happening in schools all across New York City, where they don't have enough resources to provide, to even lend a helping hand to the children that are there. And then what happens? The teacher has to come out of pocket. Why? Because caring teachers, they know they don't want this child sitting there without a notebook or a book bag or a pen. So they just slide the kid a little something. They go out, they buy it, from socks to shirts. I've seen teachers buy all types of things. So instead of it being like that,
we have a call.
Sorry.
Caller, you live?
All right.
Good evening. Thank you for taking my call. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Come on.
All right. So my question is to the guest specifically, right? So we know we have 18 in District 22 in the Cosmetic District that you're hoping to run for. So I'm curious to know, right? We are dealing with the pandemic of COVID-19 that the doctor so eloquently talked about in the last segment. But unfortunately, we're also dealing with the pandemic of the virtual learning. And so many Black and brown students are going without and will be further delayed, right? Not in District 22, but in District 18.
Correct.
Right? So can you just outline specifically some of the things that you potentially will do when you get elected to support some of these schools that are A, overcrowded, B, may not have qualified teachers, and C, may not have parents with access to resources that their students will need to make up some of the 10 months of learning that they would have lost? Thank you for taking my question.
Thank you so much for asking. That's a wonderful question. A big part of what I think that we need to do, what's happening already in District 18 is a little different, like you said, than District 22. What's happening in District 22? Parents have already started creating pods. They've already started creating these learning institutions for their children. 3 kids are getting together at people's homes and they're inviting a tutor over and they're helping their kids. That can happen in District 18 with the additional resources that we have. I've actually already began meeting with ministers, right? So I've been endorsed by 4 ministers in the community, one being the wonderful Bishop Harding. And one thing that I was trying to explain to them is that they have resources individually, but together, if these churches come together, right? As much work as they're doing apart, if they come together, they'll be able to provide the resources that the church needs. Because when people feel destitute and depressed and betrayed and anxious, where they go? To the church. And that's what we've seen. And so it's a matter of, we have educators like Mr. Daly in the church, like other educators in the church. Pods need to be created. If the parents in the District 18 cannot create those pods, we need to be able to create those pods for them as a community. And my charge is not just for people to wait for the government to do something for them, but there's so much that we as individuals, citizens, can do for ourselves only if we unite. So my slogan is winning together. And I tell everyone, I can't do this work alone. Even if I win, I cannot do it alone. It is going to take everyone's effort, and the effort begins now. It starts today. It's not tomorrow. The effort begins now, and I charge all of you to begin to do what you can now to help others, even if you're helping one or two other people, and then sharing your story with someone else so that they can then help one or two other people in the same fashion. It makes a world of a difference, because like I said, in District 22, I know the parents. I'm meeting with some of the parents who've already started Saturday pods with their kids to do the extra tutoring help and things of that sort. Our kids may not want to do it, but they need to. They need to. They need to go, and so these are just some of the things. But just to go back to another portion of the question, some of the things that I'm outlining to do is not only just getting community to unite, because that is a big part of my vision. Community to unite and begin to share resources. Then, in addition to, a big part of all of this is that the simple fact that we all also need to be able to understand what we're dealing with in regards to COVID-19, right? So COVID-19, just all it did was just highlight all the issues that were already here. One of the big issues is that schools already needed to have smaller class sizes. I'm hoping now that this is something, as I mentioned to the UFT, that we can really begin to champion for and push for smaller class sizes. Children learn better in a smaller setting. Teachers can co-teach better in a smaller setting. They can have 2 teachers in the classroom. There's so many different things. There's a variety of things that practitioners have studied and shown to be effective classroom management tools that can be done in order for us to really begin to increase the academic rigor and support in classrooms for our children, so that we can begin to close the gap on academic learning as well as even the virtual learning.
Tiffany, just real fast, and one of the things that the caller just touched on and is very dear to me.
Yes.
I noticed that one of my sons learns extremely, extremely well when he's in a smaller classroom setting. And when he's in the other classroom setting, he's not really learning a thing like that. Today he did a math test on his own. I mean, you watched him, but he was, because the teacher was calling his name, even though it was virtual. And but we do have to move on a little bit. So we want to know a little bit more about your campaign.
Sure.
So the next question that I have, I don't know if my computer's going back and forth because somehow one of my sons put Roblox on and created.
Oh, I know that Roblox.
Created a virus on my.
See, I got Sonic behind me. I'm in my son's room.
I see it. So my question is the fundraising component. Tell us about the fundraising.
Mm-hmm. Well, I need as much help as I can get.
Hold on, I want to make sure that we're on time. So we only have a few minutes more with you, about maybe 6 to 7 minutes with you.
Yes.
Right.
So let's just tell us about the fundraising, how that's going. But let's take the caller first.
Sure.
Caller, you're live.
Hello.
Yes, caller, you're live. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I definitely heard some awesome things that you've mentioned. But I wanted to speak about, right, as a leader, you spoke about collaboration. What does collaboration look like for you? Because yes, you've been a parent coordinator, but what you're trying to tackle with education, right? It comes from head down, from chancellor to et cetera, right? You have a whole bunch of people who are following the lead of, a superintendent, a deputy superintendent, et cetera. So when you say it's about collaboration, it doesn't necessarily start directly in the school community, because remember, everybody has a district initiative that they need to follow. So if you're going to implement something or do something, it has to come from top down, because it can't just be this school's doing one initiative, but the other school isn't doing it and the other school isn't doing it. Like, where are you going to implement this buy-in so that you can have this collaboration that you need? Because remember, every leader is not going to be like, oh, I want to do this, right? How are you going to pull everybody to the team?
So that is an excellent question. And these are the type of things that your city council member is supposed to be able to do in regards to working with the folks at City Hall, the chancellor, and things of that sort. So back to holding the chancellor accountable, I think a big part of it is right now, everyone is doing anything that they want to do. There's no one consistent way that any particular one person is doing. I know that because I have children in different schools. And so there's what they are doing. Yes, people are checking to make sure like the kids don't have COVID. That, you know what I mean? That's consistent across the board. However, how they're implementing work, study, people have classes starting at this time, going to that time. I mean, across the board right now. So these are the type of things that the elected official has to be able to check the chancellor on, because right now, I don't know who's checking him, because it's in total disarray. But how I would do it, I would be one of the voices calling him directly to ensure, to say, hey, this is what's happening in my district. Why is this taking place? And I would like to have a meeting. And that's how I'm talking about working collectively. It would be saying to him, I want to have a collaborative meeting with you, some parent members, some teachers, some principals. We're talking about a gambit, deans, having everyone sit at the table so that all voices are inclusive and heard. And I think that that's what's missing. I think a lot of the decisions that are being made, even at a top level, are not inclusive of the students, are not inclusive of the parents. And so then from top down, it's just like these lofty ideas, not considering all the different components of the different communities that we're serving. New York City is vast. Even as it was just said, in my district, District 46 is vast. It's very different. You could go from one neighborhood. Canarsie does not look like Bergen Beach, and so it's one of those things. And they're neighbors. So it's one of those kinds of things. With all the 9 different neighborhoods, they all have 9 different needs. Yes, there is some continuity. What we know for sure is that all kids want education, and they all want to feel loved and cared about. And so if we put more care and professionalism, I believe, in not just the DOE, but in NYPD, in ACS, in DHS, and all of these city agencies across the board in regards to how they relate, especially to our Black and Brown communities, I think that will make a world of a difference in how things are being done and how we can hold them accountable.
I got it here. All right, that's well said. Caller, we're good. I want to move on to the next question. Is that okay, caller?
Oh yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
So the question was about fundraising. How are you doing fundraising?
Mm-hmm. So a big part of where we are right now, we started fundraising. When was it? November 14th was when we were given the green light to fundraise, and we started fundraising November 14th, and from then till now we've raised $11,000, and we are plowing through. We need to get to, at minimum, another $11,000 in order to be able to receive the full matching funds before February 16th. So I am asking anyone on this call who hears me and knows and understands and hears my passion for my community to make a donation. It's TiffanyPryor.com. That's www.tiffanypryor.com, because we need to, by February 16th, that's the deadline. That's the next deadline. We need to raise an additional $11,000 by that time. And so I really am asking for anyone who's willing to give any length of a helping hand. $175 is the max as far as matching funds, but I'll take $175, $75, $10, whatever it is that you can provide at this particular time.
All right.
Awesome.
Andre?
I mean, I feel like what you've said is, you well said. You spoke a lot about the things that we need, and as Della said, really, the Ms. Smith, the village is charged to help our children move further along, and I felt that that push coming from you. So all the best, and
thank you.
Let's get it.
That's right. Thank you, Andre. And I just want to say this. I do want to thank the village as well as the endorsement from Bishop Harding. He's allowing us to utilize the church and Grace Family Services on February 2nd. 2021, we'll be hosting our Black History Month event there, and where we'll be giving out food to the community. And anyone who makes a donation of $20 or more to my campaign, they will be giving out haircuts. They can get a haircut for themselves, or they can donate a haircut to someone who's less fortunate and who cannot afford it. We are going to be reaching out to moms of single parents, who moms and dads, but single parents parents and seeing if we can give haircuts to kids and their families. So even if you don't want a haircut, you can donate, like I said, $20 or more to my campaign, and that will give forth haircuts to families in this district, District 46.
Awesome.
All right, thank you so much, Miss Tucker Pryor, for joining us.
Thank you.
For more information, you go to www.tiffanypryor, Pryor, I believe you said it was Pryor.
Correct.
Tiffany Tucker, tiffanypryor.com, right? And,
yes.
And thank you for being there. Okay.
Thank you all for having me. I appreciate you.
All right.
I look forward to coming again.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
You as well.
So our next guest is coming up. This dude, man,
what's good?
Hey, Andre, Rod.
Yeah, you know.
Hey, man, great to see you, man.
Kwame, I'm a little bit upset with you right now, right? I'm gonna tell you why I'm upset with you. Andre, I don't know if you know this, right? But Kwame and I went to college together.
Man, that's good. You went to college with everybody.
No, look at his forehead. Look at his forehead, man. At his forehead, you see some gray streaks growing back, man. What's going on, Kwame?
Rod, you're not as young as you think you are, man. You know, we're all the same age, man. So I'm giving away your age.
Yeah. This is it is so awesome. I did it before and I got corrected, so I'm gonna correct myself. I want you to talk a little bit. I'm gonna give you like 1 minute just to introduce yourself, tell us who you are, background, all that good stuff. You have about a minute, 2 minutes, you know, because I know you have a lot to offer. I know we also want to show a trailer of your show, your movie. So we have that up. So I want to make sure you talk about that. Go ahead.
Thanks, Rod. So my name is Kwame Nyong'o, and I grew up between both the U.S. and Kenya. Based in Kenya, most of my adult career has been here in Kenya, and I'm an animator, an illustrator. So I'm really passionate and driven to create content about Africa, stories that I felt as a child were not being told around the world. I mean, I feel like when I was in the U.S., there's so much misconceptions about Africa. So I felt like through the power of storytelling, that I could make some impact, and it was just something that I felt I would really want to do, and that's what I've been doing here in Kenya the last 20 years. So thanks for having me, and yeah, I'd like to share more about what I've been up to. Thanks a lot.
And so we know that you're also up early right now. Like, what time is it there?
It's 4:30 in the morning. So excuse me if I'm a little bit slow out of the gates here in my responses. So yeah.
Nah, man, you're good.
Don't be yawning on TV. All right.
Oh man. So
which part of Kenya? We're in Kenya at? Which part?
I'm in Nairobi, which is the big capital city. Yeah.
That's the largest city, right, in Kenya?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the main cities in Africa. Yeah, biggest city in East Africa.
Okay, awesome. What's the population about?
Nairobi is it's definitely in the millions. I'm not exactly sure. I mean, the surrounding areas, if you factor it all in, it's definitely about the 4 or 5 million range right now. So.
Okay, that is awesome. You know, Andre, I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, it's okay, really. You know, a lot of the stuff that you talk about, you know, being in animation right now, author, like I just published my own book just now too, so I'm, you know, getting into that road, and the animation stuff also is very captivating. I know that you also do the children books too. Can you tell us a little bit more? You know, what got you started?
Yeah. Well, actually, my first book was actually a project when I was still finishing up at art school, and I just felt like, could I do something that would not just be a project on the shelf, but something I could share. So I thought of doing a book. When it came to the subject, I thought, well, why can't I tell something about the world I saw in Kenya? This is the time I was still new. The world I saw in Kenya that most people don't have that perception. Like most of the perception of Kenya was a bit, I would say, maybe stereotypical about maybe you know, the Maasais, because the most famous tribe, or the animals, and they didn't really see just the ordinary kind of you know, just ordinary life of ordinary kids going about their business. And that's one thing I just felt was strongly in my work, is kind of how to, I don't know, dispel the stereotypes or dispel the feeling of otherness, or so like I felt like, why can't I just show those commonalities between peoples? And so my books have all been with that spirit in mind. And so my first book, A Tasty Mandazi, all my books are based on food, actually, because I felt like food is one thing that people from all over the world can rally around.
People, right.
it's a good way to kind of share culture and stuff. And the whole approach is that it's not kind of how would I say romanticized. I felt a lot of the books I would see out there, at least the more common African books about Africa, were all kind of romanticized, and for some reason now most of them are actually by foreign authors as well, not even African authors. So can we have more of an authentic kind of real feel of this is what life would be like in Kenya for a small boy, and so it's kind of a day in the life of this kid, and some life lessons. He learns to take some responsibility, and all my books have a bit of a kind of a moral to the story. It's not just a series of entertainment, but there's a little bit of an educational value. So that's the motivation.
There's that empowering. I'm echoing.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up your short your trailer to your movie. I'm trying to get that up.
Yeah, I got it up here already.
Oh, you got it up? Oh, you got it.
So I could share it right now. But you talk about the moral aspect of the story, and just really trying to put a more authentic view or understanding of what the world in Kenya and just even in Africa is like. And just earlier this week, I saw a clip where Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, the author, she had an interview, and the journalist asked her if there are bookstores in Africa, and it was just so shameful that's such a question where that asks, and it's really the lack of understanding of what that those countries are also advancing as well, right? So go ahead.
No, I'm just saying you hit the nail right on the head. I mean, there's so many misconceptions in the West about what Africa is like. And I mean, I think that's largely due to for some reason the media just like to portray the stereotype that they feel, or just the bad news about some war or famine or something. And really, there's so much great things. There's so much development. There's so much just real ordinary life happening here. So I think the onus is on us as African content creators to set the record straight and show a more realistic view, more positive view of the content.
Exactly. We have to do it ourselves, and I can't wait on anybody else. We have to get out there and say, this is who we are, and we gotta make sure that we stand by that. Now, your trailer itself, is that's the current film you're working on?
That's actually a film we just recently released, a short film we recently released in 2020. And that is called The Legend of Luanda Magere, which is based on a Kenyan folktale, on a Kenyan myth that's been passed on orally for generations. There's been a famous story. There's been several books written about it, plays done. There's been a couple short films as well. And we felt like through animation, because there's elements of fantasy in it, just like a lot of African films, we thought it'd be a great idea to use it as a basis for.
Didn't you just? You won some award for that, didn't you?
We did actually. In LA Animation Festival, we got the best international short, which was awesome. It was good to get recognition outside of Kenya, and then also here in Kenya, we got an award for best animation at the Kalasha Awards. So that was really cool.
How does that feel?
It feels great. I mean, it feels great to get recognition, not just here where the film is from, but also abroad, to have it feel like, people over outside and people don't know anything about the story or the culture resonated with it.
All right, we have a couple more questions, but we'll do that after showing the clip. Go ahead.
All right.
Nyathina jou osesandore. Aseri to monda megi thuon majariti. Ng'at ma ong'eyo ni tekruok ma dhano ok ni e chal mar dende to ni ei chunye.
What language is that for people?
That's Luo, which is Luo is one of the more major ethnic groups in Kenya. So that's where the story comes from. It comes from Western Kenya in Luo land. So it's It's a Nilotic language, and so that's another thing. We also wanted it to not. You find like a lot of foreign films we done in English, so that kind of for the Western audience, so kind of tailor making for Western audience. Well, we felt like we'd rather do it in the local language, and if necessary, then we can put subtitles to give it more sense.
I saw the subtitles. I was wondering, like for the Western culture, will it be in English as well, so that everyone can enjoy it? It's very, very interesting.
Well, the film is actually, we've done it because English is the most widespread language. So the film is actually, there's a narration. The narration is done in English by the grandmother, Ropandi, but all the dialogue is in Luo, and all that dialogue has English subtitles. So that in future we could have different versions, different language subtitles. We could also do a narration in different language. We're considering that. So we could do the narration in Swahili or any other language, French, whatever. So.
And as you mentioned, even Nairobi and even Kenya. Have you heard of the book, A Long Walk to Water, Linda Sue Park?
I have not. Long Walk to Water. No.
So that book itself, for the last years, I've been a teacher, like 5 years now. Every year, for 7th grade, that's the book we focus on, and it's looking at Salva Dutt, based on his story, and it's written in a two narrative way, right? So we got a fictional story of how a girl's life is in 2008 in Kenya, and also for Salva from 1985 up until present day. And he really just talked about the experience in war, and really just being a refugee and coming to America, and even really going through a whole lot of difficulties and struggle. But he started a water organization just to kind of help out Sudan, right? And he traveled through Kenya, Ethiopia, and those different parts of the the continent. So I just thought that was there was a connection right there.
Cool, I'll check it out. Sounds very interesting.
Jermaine, not Jermaine. I'm Andre.
Yeah.
Jermaine said to make sure that you invite Kwame to your class. Kwame, you're in obviously in Kenya now. You said 4:30 in the morning. I don't want to wait. Okay, so let's go back through this. Do you plan to make this into a longer film? How would somebody, if they're interested in watching the entire thing, how would they be able to do this award-winning short film, animated short film?
Thanks. That's a great question. At the moment, it's only available in East Africa, in Kenya. There's a platform it's called My Movies Africa, where you can get it. Unfortunately, they don't yet have the capability to broadcast outside of Kenya. So at the moment, it's only Kenya, but we're looking at other platforms where it can be seen worldwide. There's some other couple of platforms we've been talking to. So soon, as soon as that's available, I'll let you guys know, and you can share with all your fans and stuff. But as for now, the film is 10 minutes. It's still a short film, but the short film is still not available outside of Kenya. It will be doing the rounds at a few more festivals in the U.S. Still in some festivals.
Are you going to go to Sundance Festival as well? I heard about the Sundance Festival. Is that what it's called?
No, it's not going to Sundance, but there's a few other festivals it'll be going to. It went to the LA Shorts, which was great. That was back in October. And then the LA Film Festival, LA Animation Festival. It was also here in Africa, the AMA Awards. That's the Nigerian African Movie Academy Awards, and a few other ones. Speaking of turning into longer format, we do have some ideas on how to turn it into a longer format. We've been talking around that, because really that is the best way to get distribution, is either a feature or a series. We even also had a series idea, so we've been playing around with a couple of different ideas on that. Plus, there's some other concepts we have in the pipeline. So,
a couple of questions. One, I think it would be a great idea to get to. Jermaine brought up a good point. That even here in the United States, an opportunity for getting into classrooms. I know, like you said, you go back and forth between Kenya, so maybe you and Andre can definitely connect and be in his class. I think a lot of students would love to
set up like a Zoom link.
To do that. I didn't think about the Zoom link, Andre. That's a very good idea. We had a couple of guests on, and that I really would think that it's great to connect you to. A couple of them who are authors, right, of children's stories. And I think in our outside conversations, we've spoken about it. I think one of them is Aria Rodney with her series of stories of Juniper and Rose. And I think she said she has written like 20 books. So we have an opportunity to look at that. About one family is a multiracial family where one person was white and the other one was black, and they had children. One of the child came out more white. Andre, is that correct? And then one of them were a little bit, darker.
Yeah, she her story was all focused on this the multiracial aspect, in families considering our time and all. So I mean, but basis really is children's book, really kind of the empowerment piece, right? The empowerment aspect, empowering young people to be themselves. So there's that connection right there that both of y'all could even discuss those things.
Yeah, and also I think Lynn Graham, she wrote about the Empress Coil, which she's talking about the hair. So there are a couple of people. I mean, looking back, given that opportunity. Let me just ask you. No, right. So just an opportunity, as ideas, because as our guests come on to make those connections. Moving on, is there anything else that is there something else in the making that you're thinking about doing, or something else that you've done that that you want to share?
I've done. Good question. We actually did another short film last year, which I thought was quite interesting. It was called the Wonderful Story of Ali, Aisha, and Flip Floppy, the multicolored Daubout. And it was a short 3-minute film. I'll send you the link just now, about the adventures. We did it for this client called the Flip Floppy Expedition. And basically what they've done is they've taken a task to go into the oceans and other water bodies and retrieve plastic waste and find recycled uses for that. So what they did is they built a dhow boat, which is like a traditional East African sailing boat, normally made out of wood. They basically scavenged for, I think it was like 3 or 5 tons of plastic waste and created this boat. And with this boat, they're using it as a means of creating that message of that awareness of plastic pollution in the oceans, which is actually way bigger than I actually knew before. And I think so that sensitization of the impact of plastic waste and what it's having on the marine life, and that whole negative, all the negative impacts of that. So they're spreading that message basically by going on the boat and sailing up and down the coast of Africa. And in fact, in March, they're going to be taking the boat and sailing around Lake Victoria, which is the biggest lake in East Africa, which is also having the same issues of plastic waste. So that was a very interesting project to be part of. So yeah, I mean, there's been that, and then there's also some other ideas that we're now just kind of in development that we've been developing. So yeah.
Again, so you must love the fact that the United States president have placed climate. I forgot the exact term, but he has placed like climate change as something that's relevant and should be looked at. So I think that's that's, to me, that's awesome. In your path, right? I'm just wondering if I could play a role in one of these shows that you're doing. Just make sure I'm in there, right? So just got to look at it. Let's go back a little bit in the African diaspora, right? There is, and especially I know this from Jamaica, we have the Anansi stories. Are you familiar with them?
Yeah, very much so. In fact, the Anansi story was actually, it's funny you mention that, because actually I credit a lot of that Anansi story to why I am here today and what I do. When I was about 5 years old in the US, I remember seeing very vividly, still in my imagination, the original Anansi the Spider animation done by Gerald McDermott, who had done that book, the very graphical design book about Anansi and his 7 sons. And that just inspired me, because I was like, wow, this is so cool, and this is so African, and this is like, I resonate with this. I mean, this is something that's authentic. And that's actually what really largely inspired me also to get into the creative arts with the interest in African content. So, yeah.
Have you thought about doing any of the Anansi stories? Because I mean, those he has, as a spinster, you know, he has a lot of these different things that he has. Some of them you could do films about, others you can't. But you know, but there's so many stories. Have you thought about doing something like that?
No, Rod, you are now you sparked something, because it's been something on the back burner for years, and now talk of that. In fact, we talked about at another talk I was having some time back about what about a Nazi? Can we do some you know, some more Nazi stories? I think it's great. I think that's that, and there's so much it can lend itself to. Like we're talking about, even like maybe a modern day Anansi. You know, what if you had a contemporary day Anansi and these kind of things? So very cool.
You could probably make that into like a superhero, like a DC comic.
Exactly. Exactly.
Thing. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I mean, just going back to animation, because that's also something that I've always wanted to get into for some time. You know, how long does it take you when you create these film? Like even the 3-minute one, how long did that take you to complete?
Yeah, the Flip Floppy film took. Well, a lot of it depends. I mean, like typically a short film, 3, 5, 10 minutes. Usually it's about 2-3 months. Yeah. The Lorna McGarry film longer. Yeah. The Lorna McGarry film was. I mean, depends on, you know, your approach, the aesthetic, the story, number of characters, backgrounds, this kind of thing. The Flip Floppy film, we did it. Was it within 2 months? The Lorna McGarry story, on the other hand, being 10 minutes, we had a bit more robust team. And it's a longer, more intricate story that took us about 4 months of production and 2 months of post production. So it was over a 6-month period, really, including research.
Because I know, you know, I mean, I'm oftentimes you know, anime or just comics and those things, really, and you know, researching it. Sometimes 1 minute, a minute of animation would take you know, let me see, like 24 frames or you know, multiple frames, and that's just not necessarily just 1 minute. Could even be like a 30 seconds right there. So to even create an entire episode, like a 20-minute episode, you know, beyond that 6 months right here. So I mean, you know, credit to a lot of the filmmakers out there. You know. Yeah,
it is quite an intricate process, and it's all so much reliant on organization, being organized, well-oiled team. You can't do it alone. You have to work well with people, and having that ability to have that, just being organized and having that common vision. Because it's a ton of work. They say it's a lot. 10% inspiration, 90% inspiration.
Right.
A couple of questions, because love to have you some more. But and probably, you know, would work on that as time goes by. But you know, a lot of people want to know, right? You know, when you talk about production, who, like, I guess I'm not, you know, because we're all mesmerized by celebrity, right? So the question is, like, to get picked up, or who have you come across that says, I love this show, or money? I don't know, like, to produce your thing, does it cost money? How do you get the money? You know, that's kind of question. Or somebody, you get what I'm like a Steven Spielberg, does he say, Kwame, I love your film? Do you get what I'm getting at?
Well, I mean, I think that does happen. I mean, I think a lot of times, especially with these kind of shorts and demos, a lot of times it's kind of proof of concept. And if a producer or studio is interested in that, then, you know, it's kind of like it's a calling card. Then if the studio is interested in that, they can be like, okay, let's take this to the next level. Let's turn this into a feature. Let's turn this into a series. So a lot of times the things that we do are the basis for bigger productions to get, you know, so they're kind of like calling cards. Hey, this is kind of a proof of concept of an idea. Could we turn it into something that would have far greater reach and impact? A lot of times it's not. A lot of times the shorts are shorts, and they work better as that, standalone. But a lot of times they can act as calling cards. So, Rod, when you talk to Steven Spielberg, show him my film and tell him I'm ready to. I'm ready. Yeah.
Fortunate or unfortunate, I don't know him.
So when you talk about where do you get the money for it, it's tough. For Lorna McGarry, I was very fortunate. I applied for a grant from a donor called HEVOS. It's a Dutch organization. And then I also got some support from the studio space where I worked at, the arts organization. and some other folks. So it was, it's hard because on your own, you can't do it. I mean, you need to have a big team, you need to have software equipment. So there is a cost to production. A lot of people, I think, don't really quite understand. I know for some reason, a lot of people, maybe it's more here than in the US, but they feel like animators just having fun. So you just need a computer, you have fun, and then everything just happens. But it really takes a lot of time and resources and skill. You need the skilled people to be on the team. So from writers to storyboard artists to designers.
Right.
And the industry is growing. I think there's more and more realization that there is it is a viable business, and it's a viable economic. The entertainment industry is obviously so huge in America and the other parts of the world, and it's growing rapidly here in Africa. So I think
that thing is also passion, really. Like once you have the passion to do it, you're gonna go for it. So I mean, kudos to you. Keeping up the great work. So where could people keep up and find your work?
Online, we have, there's my personal website where you find my kids' books, kwamenyongo.com. And then our company website where you find animation work is at apesandspaced.net. And also we have, the social media, Instagram and Facebook of the same. So if you follow us on social media and Facebook, Instagram, you can keep up with us. Yeah.
All right.
I have one comment and one question. I like to leave our guests because the first, I don't know if you had caught, because I know you probably were sleeping or getting ready to watch to get up with the show. But one thing is kind of like a feel good thing. What does it feel like to see your name in lights, like when you go out and see that? What does it feel like? That's just a question of how does that feel?
I'm actually, Rod, I'm a shy person. You know me. I actually don't. I like to shy away from the limelight. What I really love is when I see the work that I've done, and I see it out there, and people react to it and resonate to it. That's what really drives me, is to see the work. Not really myself, but when I see the work that I've been part of and I've been driving, see that response. That's what really gives me the fuel to keep going, and it's the reason why I do it, to see that the impact of the work. So, yeah.
One of our guests has a question. Say, what do your kids think of your work?
They always come in the studio, and it's interesting. They're always like, "Are you doing this? You're doing that?" There's another project we're working on here called Frog Boy. It's like, "Oh, you're working on Frog Boy. You're working on this and that." So it's great. I love the fact that they still appreciate the local content we're making at the same time as they're being bombarded with all the Western culture, Spider-Man and Iron Man, all these other characters. So it feels good that they look at them with the same level. They don't look at one as better than the other. So.
Gotcha. That's good. That's good. All right.
The last question, because we have a couple of things that we have to close out with, but like I asked, you're a filmmaker. Do you consider yourself a filmmaker or film producer? I want to make sure I call you by the right name.
I guess you could call me a filmmaker, yeah, because I'm actually I'm more of a director than a producer, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So as a director of films, right? I want to ask you, tell us something about perseverance and persevering towards your goal. You're in a different field, and I love the fact, Andre, and I really thought about it before I asked the question, but we had a doctor on who talked about that level of perseverance and what that was like to become a doctor. But tell us something that, and it's 1 minute, no more than a minute, right? And that question for you is, what is one thing that you want to tell our audience, the parents who are listening, about persevering for your goals, right? So like, it was hard, your first film, whatever the case is, but you persevered. Tell us a little bit about that.
Perseverance. I think perseverance is definitely key. nothing comes easy. I don't think in any field, any project that you're doing, nothing comes easy. You do have to put the blood, sweat, and tears to make something happen. But what I think is always to remember is that you're not alone. Everybody in this world, nothing just comes like that. You can imagine it, but once you want to realize it, you do have to put in that energy. And what gives you psych as well is that think about your past project, think about your past successes and what it took to get there. So it's that same feeling. From the smallest success to the big success, it's all that same motion of creating something and going forward and having the faith and hope that it will come to fruition as it has done before. It will do again. So, yeah, that's what I would say.
All right, I appreciate that. And Kwame, I want to thank you. Congratulations on your awards. You know, and looking forward. And like I said, it's great that Andre's in school. Maybe get an opportunity to do that and connect. And congratulations. Looking forward.
Definitely keep in touch.
Yeah, looking forward.
Thanks for having me on the show, Rod and Andre. Thank you so much.
All right.
And good luck to everybody out there.
Are you going back to bed?
Yes.
I would have said the same too.
All right. So have a great evening. Thank you for staying up with us right here on The Village. God bless.
All right. All the best.
Thank you.
So Andre, that a lot of things are going on in the media.
Right.
The president. We have a couple minutes, 3 minutes tops to talk about what's happening. I don't know if you discussed yet about some things we talked about in terms of our first team vice president, and I get distracted. A lot of the WhatsApp messages are proud, and I'm proud too,
right?
Of who she is, right? As a woman first, a Black woman second, right? And the rise, right? The rise of where she is as a Caribbean American, myself and my children are Caribbean American. They can all aspire. Last week, guest she was also Caribbean American from our Representative Clark. But I am mystified or muffled or any word that you want to put in there that people are just so concentrated on that component of Vice President Kamala Harris and not even talking about her ability to lead, like her in order for her to get there, she didn't get there because she was Black, Caribbean, or Asian American. She got there because of her ability, and I think people fail to talk about that. And I'm somewhat perturbed. I guess that's the word about. Well,
that. I mean, I do think those things play a role too. But I get what you're saying that it does give people a sense of connection, right? So I mean, it is often used in that way, like when they think about even teachers, really, and we always talk about the teacher looks like the kid or can relate to the kid is more likely to engage or learn more. So that itself is used. But I also think that it's important that we give attention to the person's ability and skills, and it's the media. The media is gonna do what the media does, and so all the best to them in the White House, and I'm looking forward to see what will be done. Gonna be paying attention as much as I was paying attention to our previous person that was in the White House. I'm just tired of saying his name. That's why I don't really say his name, because I felt like right now, people out there just watch some of the late shows. They're gonna be stuck on what to talk about.
they
that was the entertainment.
They'll find something. OD Almagra said representation matters, and I agree. Right. I agree that representation matters. I just people also focus on her ability. She's a Stanford. Where did she go to? Howard and HBCU.
Right.
She's an intelligent person, attorney general, a lawyer, and she struggled because she failed the bar the first time,
right?
And then had to take it. So it's like that level of perseverance is so high. We only have like about 30 seconds. Wish you could talk about it some more. So maybe next week we can talk. We could start off with that. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for joining us right here on The Village. Andre Doman and myself, Roderick Daly. If you missed the entire show, you can catch us on YouTube. And we love for you to please watch us on YouTube. Help us out with the rating, share us out there. We had 3 wonderful guests today with Dr. Victor Alexander from the Bay Area, Tiffany Tucker Pryor, candidate for City Council in 46, and Victor Alexander. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you next week right here in The Village. Remember, The Village is dedicated to empowering the community to live a healthy, safe, and financially capable life. Help through education. helping each one of us in realizing our dreams at any age, any point, starting from today. Success is not just spoken, it is done. God bless you.
We are out.
And have a good night.
It's a wrap. Peace.